Oh, hi. Okima's getting a phone call. Hi, everybody. We were just talking about how today we are so unprepared or not ready for this, but we are. We'll get it together. Welcome back to Why Am I Yelling? So last week, my friend Okema Diaz was with me, and we had a very productive and engaging talk, and I did not want to press the stop button, but we had to. So I said, you know what? I'm bringing her back on because, of course, it's going to be another engaging, enlightening, brilliant conversation. So thank you for being here, my love. So good to see your face again.
Thank you for having me again.
So since we spoke, there's a lot more still happening, right? But I feel like the protests, not the protests, but the rioting and all that stuff has died down. I feel like protesting has kind of died down a little bit. I know they're still doing it in my neighborhood. There's in the parks and that kind of stuff. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine yesterday, and one of my questions to her was, how do we keep the momentum going? I don't want to stop having these conversations. I don't want to stop having guests on this show. I want to keep talking about it. And I am fearful that, you know what, the next news cycle is coming in, right? So how do we keep the conversation going? Because people are still dying. Like, you know, we've got Black men hanging from trees in California, which to me is disgusting. And I'm going to put it out there and say I think it's definitely not suicide. So there's that. People are still dying. Black people are still dying. Like, we have to keep having these conversations until that actually stops.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we continue this narrative in a productive way that it doesn't get, pushed under the rug?
I think we have to continuously look to be outside of our comfort zone. That's part of what created the movement that we see currently. People are home. As you said before, people are no longer distracted with work and, sports and things that we do on a day-to-day basis. We're stuck at home. We're watching the news. We're seeing everything unfold. Yep. So that's a huge part of what has led to people showing up the way they have.
Yeah.
They've had to deal with the discomfort of having this thing be in their face or multiple things being in their face. The other thing is, it would be irresponsible for me not to point out that, like, the term rioting, although it's fine that people choose to use it, for me personally, I'm not triggered by the term. Right. And it's actually outdated language, because what it's often pointed to is uprising.
Yes.
Right. The amount of energy and labor, for lack of a better word, that it takes to tear stuff up like that.
Yeah.
It's not coming from people being bored and looking to be, you know what I mean? Or like whatever other like stereotype you can throw on them. Right. And it is completely separate, although it's separate and distinct from people who march peacefully, right?
Yeah. It's
a tentacle of what's going on that's so pervasive and so systemic.
Yes.
So, we have to separate it. We have to be responsible and look at it for what it is. And it's not something that we just get to dismiss. Like, oh, well, they're not part of the movement, or like they're not,
right.
They're actually a loud voice. Because had it not been for all that craziness, I don't think that those police officers would have been arrested in Minneapolis.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you. And I think that I just lost my thought, but I'm going to get it back.
How do we keep it going?
Yeah, no, you said something and I was like, oh, I have to say this. I agree with you. I think that's really important to be said. I think that, hi, Mom, your mom's here.
I know.
Because you're right. I think it's antiquated, and that's what it was. Did you see the David Chappelle video from June 6th? I mean, I
know.
I could not. I was like, oh, I was so moved by that experience. We were talking about it the other day among some friends, and I was like, I haven't seen it yet. And my friend Marion was like, you have to go watch it. You have to go watch it. And I was like, okay. And so the other night I was laying in bed and I was like, I'm going to find it. And I could not, I was like, everything you're saying, every single thing, everything. And he talks about this. He's like, we're mad. And yes, yeah. And you should be.
Yeah. And I mean, no one wants to see you know, it's not like we're like, and I'm not speaking, listen,
I know. Yeah.
I'm speaking for myself. I'm not the spokesperson. I've not been designated. I've not been hired. I do not have a check coming to me. But I definitely have to say that I know for me as a Black woman and many other people that I know who are Black, we're not like secretly cheering people that are uprising on. Like, yay. Like, that doesn't provide a good feeling for any of us. And it's literally a manifestation of the madness and the lawlessness that's been going on in this country. You know, so people want to get creative and convenient and say, oh, well, you know, like, let's show the outrage for, you know, and we talked about this before, but let's show the outrage towards property being damaged, but let's not express outrage towards lives being taken. Like, you want to talk about things being looted from Target, but you don't want to talk about lives being looted.
That to me is just ridiculous.
Families, you understand? Because when one person gets taken out by the state, let's say what it is, when that one individual gets killed, that impacts
everybody.
It impacts children. It impacts wives and partners. It impacts society. You know, it's like there's such an impact. But until, you know, you can do that, when you strip the humanity away from people, you don't have to get the impact of their lives being taken. Doesn't matter. It's like squashing a bug, if not worse, because I know there's plenty of people that would rather put the bug out the window than squash it. You know what I mean? So it's like there's so much to I'm going to use your word, dismantle. There's so much.
I know. You know, I hate it.
To really examine and unpack around all of that. Like, what does it really mean? What does it really mean when you know, police can shoot someone running away from them twice in the back?
Yes. So you guys that are watching us, before we got on here, I was saying to Okema, I don't like the words dismantle and defund, because I think it triggers response. It triggers a reaction instead of a response. I just taught this like an hour ago to people for a corporate client. The difference between a response and a reaction, right? So when you hear those words, you hear the word defund, you hear the word dismantle, you react because you're like, wait a minute, you're stripping everything away and you're not thinking about it, right? I wish they would use words like transform or reform or something that has actual meaning to what it actually is, right? So let's talk about transforming this system. I mean, we are definitely not professionals at this, right? But you're a Black girl, a Black woman. I am a white woman. We both live in New York City. We both have children or had children in the public school system. It makes me crazy that education gets defunded, that mental health gets defunded, that housing gets defunded. Talk about the word defunded. It happens everywhere else except in the police department. They have a billion with a B dollar budget, billion with a B. And they just lost one of those billions of dollars, just one in the last few weeks.
Just one.
That $1 billion can literally transform our education system.
Yeah.
That $1 billion can transform mental health system. That $1 billion can transform so many other places. The housing problem that we have in New York City. We can get people out of shelters and put them in actual homes for that kind of money. Like, I don't think people truly understand what it means. And again, like we preach this. We've been preaching this for 2 weeks. Education, taking the time to get educated and know it, right? So I want your thoughts on this.
I have a lot of thoughts on it. So
I know.
It's very interesting that the veil has been lifted off of how police departments get funded, right? And yeah, I knew what that was all about, but I still didn't even know like the magnitude in which they were being funded and how that was actually taking away. It's like, interestingly enough, the communities that are impacted the most and that are being defunded as a result of this sector of the city, the state being funded, they're the ones who are impacted the most by what got overfunded in the first place. And I don't know if it's any sense to whoever's listening. But if you look at the numbers, $6 billion going to the police department. And I love how you pointed to there was 1 billion that had been removed, right? So like people, when they hear, you talk about triggers, when people hear defund the police, it's like, you know, I've seen people question, well, what are we going to do? How are we going to do?
What are we going to do?
And it's like, no, it's just like tightening the belt a little. You know, why is
a budget?
Why should police have the means consistently to be militarized? And then you have like kids that are getting pushed through school, just to like make
right.
Right. Or you have people that are in a housing crisis, or you still have food deserts, you know? And I was recently in Queens, and I get it, Queens is pretty spread out for the most part, but I was in a fairly decent neighborhood. And it doesn't even matter, fairly decent.
Right.
People need to have access to food, real food. Not the chicken spot, not the bodega.
Right.
You know, but I can't even tell you how long I drove. I was in the car with my sister, and how long we had been driving before we saw a grocery store. One grocery store.
That's crazy.
I was there, and this was like a moderate income neighborhood too.
Yeah.
But it was very Black. It was very of color, you know. So this is where like, and this is for another conversation, but this is where like race and class gets collapsed, because the general assumption is if you're white, you have means. If you're Black, you must either be hood or you must have some come up story where you came out of the hood.
Right.
And it's just like, no, like again, and this goes back to, if you create relationships with people that you other, maybe you'll learn a little bit more about how it's not such a you know, a sweeping generalization in terms of money and class and means and income. But, you know, like I said, my point about the neighborhood in Queens, and I can't remember exactly what it was, I'm sorry, but the neighborhood in Queens was definitely working class to lower middle class, and they did not have access to a grocery store.
Like, that is wrong.
Yeah.
That's wrong.
But it shows like how neighborhoods are invested in. So you invest, no wonder these neighborhoods are over policed. You invest so much in the policing, but you don't invest in healthy food, proper schools, roads.
Yeah.
I mean, where are we investing? Where are we investing our money? So that's really what the defunding the police is really about. Like, it's not about like annihilating them. Yes, there are some groups that feel like they should be done away with, period. And that's a whole different conversation. But
absolutely. And I haven't dug into that yet, so I can't really talk to it.
Truly, you know, defunding the police is just like reallocating resources. For people.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the more people that understand that and can look at that and say, oh, you know what, you're right. I keep using the kids because I'm so close to education in New York City. I sit on a bunch of different PTAs, and I've been on leadership teams in elementary schools, and I've spoken in high schools. And it just seems to me like you're harming our kids. Like you just said, it's like funding this over here. Okay, fine. But you know what? You're taking away from the future of what this could potentially be, right? Yeah. You're taking away from that. And you're pushing kids through school, and you're taking the arts away, and you're making parents, you know, I'm fortunate. We live in a neighborhood where we have good schools, and we have parents who are involved, and we can raise money, and we have the resources to hold activities and do fundraisers. But there are a lot of places that don't have that. And so that is what really burns my goat. Like, I get really hot on that, because it's like, you know what, why can't we invest in our kids? Why can't we invest in the future of what this country should be in 10, 20, 30? Why?
Because the system is designed to not do that. That's really
exactly. I mean, it is.
The system is designed to not do that. The system think about it. People chanting Black Lives Matter, just like Dave Chappelle said, matter is the minimum.
It's the minimum.
Okay? You look up what matter means, that's the bare minimum. It's like, like the right to exist. We're not even talking about
Right.
like how we're going to exist, but it's just like
Right.
the right to exist. So when, and it goes back to, the humanity conversation.
Yep.
Stripping people of their humanity is to do this. Is to have them living in communities where there are no grocery stores. Is to have them having like the only schools they have access to are like intolerant schools. Yeah.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
knowing that there's segregation. That we have two different systems. We have two different school systems. We have two different justice systems. It's and this is what happens when you reduce someone's status to subhuman. I'm gonna just say what it is. They did that during chattel slavery. When someone received a will and they had their possessions.
Yes.
Guess where the slaves were listed? You can go
They
right.
weren't. Like they weren't.
But they were listed after the animals and just by name. The name was given to them and the age. And then maybe if they had like maybe another detail, like if they had an injury or something, and I saw that with my own eyes. You can go up to Sleepy Hollow. There's actually a plantation in Sleepy Hollow, and it's very interesting. It was a corporate plantation that managed plantations in Barbados. And and you could see, you walk into the house and you can see on the wall like actual wills, so it really, when you really look at it, people who want to dismantle this whole thing, it's like, it's actually a lot more simple than people want to make it. You strip the humanity away from human beings. It's much easier to operate in a way that constantly dehumanizes them over and over and over again. It's easy to live in a system that allows you to thrive while other people, barely get by.
Right. Yes.
It's a system that allows you to judge those people that are barely able to get by because somehow you have to legitimize, they've made poor choices. Or who in life hasn't made a poor choice? They made poor choices. They're lazy. Again, whatever
the stereotype is. Yep.
Whatever judgment you want to throw on them so that you can feel better about stepping over their feet while they're like laying on the ground begging. And I'm not saying that you got to save the world. This is not about like having a savior complex either, but it's about being able to take responsibility for what doesn't work about the society that you live in and you operate in, and looking at what you're willing to do about it. So for going back to your initial question of like, well, how do we keep this going? Do the freaking work. That's how you keep it going. Constantly constantly be in search of where can I make a difference? And it doesn't have to be like on the top of the mountaintop. It's like, where can I make a difference in this conversation I'm having with you? Where can I make a difference at work? Where can I make a difference at church? Where can I make a difference with my family when I'm having dinner with on Thanksgiving?
Oh, it's the best time.
Best time. You know what I mean? Where can I make a difference with my children? Rather than like conversations, because you know how children are, man. They'll come to you, whatever you don't want to face or confront, they will give you
right there. Yeah.
They will ask questions.
Yeah.
So what you do is you don't like dismiss, you don't be dismissive of the children when they're trying to figure it all out.
Right.
So there's a lot of work.
There is a lot.
It's a lot more. I don't want to trivialize it by saying it's a lot more simple, but it's like to not keep it simple and to overly complicate your role and your part actually lets you off the hook. Because then you get to say, it's too hard.
Right. I don't want
to deal with all of this. Well, imagine people who are living it. Like, give up the luxury of saying, I don't want to have to deal with it. You're living here. You're part of it. You do have to deal with it.
So I think that is spot on, right? And I think that it is a tendency for us as humans to do that. Like we always overanalyze and we always try to dig deeper into, and as a coach and you do the same thing, right? So it's like, we talk to people every day and it's like, look, it's black and white right here. Just look at what it says right on the surface. You don't have to dig any deeper. You got to dig deeper to find the history. You got to dig deeper to find the facts. You got to do that. But it all can be on paper, whether it is your relationship, whether it is having a difficult conversation, whether it is, doesn't matter. Everything is it just seems so simple. And we make it so hard. And it's not doing any of us a service.
Yeah.
It's harming all of us.
It's true, because there's no amount of denial that can have it go away.
Yeah.
There's no amount of denial that can have it go away. I mean, you could deny and deny and deny, and then you can be rageful and upset because the fear picking up. And that's really what I would like to talk about right now. Is like the level of fear in which people are operating just from the thought of things. You know, we're now having a conversation as a country of things being equitable in ways that they weren't when we actually thought that they were. Right. You know what I mean? It's like going, people talked about a post-racial society, because we had Barack Obama and like
right.
Like I would always talk about trigger. I would get triggered when I would hear that.
Right.
There's nothing post-racial.
No.
I mean, yes, it was a joy seeing him and his family in the White House.
Of course.
I think it was a big deal for us, not only as a country, but across the globe.
Yes.
Everyone was celebrating. And the other side of that was the fear.
Yeah.
People were constantly confronted with, because it's like, well, what does this mean? If you think about it, it's like racial in those 8 years he was in office, and a lot of these murders happened. And I'm not saying, oh, it was on his watch. I'm blaming him. The irony is, it's like, you think you live in a post-racial society, but
right,
what's going on? And back then, we didn't have COVID, so people could like opt to watch or not. They could choose to be involved and plugged in or not. And then they can choose to feel bad about it. And then, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but like I was always up against walking into work and being confronted with the complete lack of awareness.
Oh, yes.
And now I'm at work, right? So I'm not into messages.
Right.
But a lot of the clients would, some of them would just be in their cloud or whatever. But I mean, you can't deny that I'm a Black woman. You can't, there's some level of impact, right?
That's amazing.
On a human level, if you're impacted by it, then I'm going to be impacted by it. So I wouldn't once, look to like say, oh my God, like I can't even believe. I'm like, yeah, it's just the difference is that people have phones. And we mentioned that before, like that's
right in front of us.
It's not more. It's just that people have more access to recording it and presenting it.
What is your I'm going to go back to a conversation I was having yesterday. So if you guys haven't watched my yesterday talk, my guest was Tamisha Harris. She is a TV producer. She works at CNN. She lives in Atlanta. She has lived in New York. She's a mom. And she is just a very dynamic Black woman. And our conversation yesterday was like our conversation today. It's going to touch on a lot of different things. Mm-hmm. She said the words to me, white guilt.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, yes. And she said, that has to stop. Like, we got to stop it. Like, it exists. We need to, acknowledge that it exists. But I think when we're having this talk right now and you're like, sweep it under the rug or step over the guy on the street or whatever, because we were so distracted by whatever we had going on at the time, I feel like white guilt kind of or that conversation you're having with your client who brings it up because maybe they feel guilty because it's not happening to them or to their race or whatever they're referring to themselves as, right? And I think that, of course it exists. And I don't know what the right way, like you're going to tell me because I'm not you. So what is the right way to address that is?
Just read. I mean, know your history. As an American, just know the history of the country that you are a part of. There's so much, these, and school aside, okay, let's face it.
They don't learn shit in school. So right.
They didn't break it down in school. I mean, there's still, I grew up in a very progressive household with parents that told me that I needed to always supplement my education, right? In terms of learning about certain
stuff.
data and stories.
Yep.
And I'm still learning. I mean, we're talking about centuries of history,
Yes. Yeah.
hundreds of years, and not just like as it relates to slavery, but as it relates to systems put in place post-slavery.
Yeah.
You know, because we want to feel good about ourselves for having, you know, abolitionists and having Abraham Lincoln, you know,
Right.
and moving on. And it's like, and you still don't know about, I mean, you know, there's a whole lot of history on slave patrols and how they morphed,
Yes.
what we know now as police departments.
Yep.
And that's not made up. That's rooted in fact and truth, you know.
Yes.
And so there's a lot of, you know, going back to your question earlier about how do we move on, that there's so much information to get a hold of out there, you know, and Google is your friend. No,
it really is.
Everything. You always, you know, consider the source, of course, because anyone can publish an article and put it online.
Of course. Right.
But, you know, there's lots of books, there's lots of articles, there's tons of authors and scholars that study this work. Yeah. So, you know, people just don't have the excuse of, you know,
of not knowing.
Just willful ignorance, because you have the option of getting information. And getting back to like white guilt, I mean, that's a very old term. I think it goes as far back as like the 70s. Again,
sure.
It absolves you from responsibility. Guilt does nothing to forward change or, you know, any movement for anyone, including those who are feeling guilty.
Right.
It's not just a disservice to me, but
to themselves.
To you, right? And also, like, you know, white fragility.
Yes.
Like, you don't want to. There's like, you know, like just chapters and chapters and chapters on that. But it's like when you don't want to be thought of as the oppressor, and then in that you actually end up oppressing by looking to silence the people that have something to say about their, you know, and it's just like, well, you got to take responsibility for your feelings, you know, like I get it. Like it's not, there's a lot of great things about our history and there's a whole lot of not so great things about our history. And if you can start to reconcile that, then maybe you'll find some peace around like how it's showing up. Not like peace like yay, but you'll find some peace around how to address how it shows up today.
Right.
Whether it's, you know, on the micro level, macro level, like, you know, level, like regardless of what level it shows up, you'll be armed with what there is for you to do to deal with it and deal with it powerfully. I mean, that's what I'm able to move about in my life. You know, I know who I am. My identity has not been rooted in what the system says about people that look like me.
Right.
You know, my identity is rooted in knowing who I am, how my ancestors contributed to this country that we all get to live in, you know, how actually, and there's no talk about that. It's just like we were dusty slaves picking cotton and that's it. No.
Yeah.
This. You go to DC, you want to see, you know, you have any question about what the slaves actually did, go to DC. All those monuments, including the White House that our friend is living in. Right. I mean, it was all built.
Yeah.
It was all built and created our insurance systems, our banking systems, all the systems, all the financial systems, you know? And it wasn't just limited to America. It actually created a global economy as well.
Yeah.
Because a lot of, you know, like England got to eat off of what we were producing here in America.
Right.
Other countries in Europe got to eat off of it. Mm-hmm. You know, so it's just like, let's face it. Yeah. But until you're willing to face it, you're just going to be trapped. You're going to be trapped in the dark closet, and it's not going to feel good. It's going to get really, really uncomfortable really fast.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, just on the conversations that I'm watching or reading or listening to and having, right? It's like the idea of not addressing it just seems like you are seriously hurting yourself. And you're not just hurting yourself, like you're hurting your kids and you're hurting the people around you. And if you're not willing to like find a space in your mind for it to be open to understand something that whether you believe in it or not, it's like, it's fact.
Yeah.
Right. So that, like, that's mind boggling. Like, it's just, that to me is mind boggling. It's like, why, how could you not want to know? And it's crappy stuff without question. It's like, oh my God, I read this stuff and I'm like a mess. I'm a mess. And I know it. I know it. I'm not a fool. I know history. I know that stuff. But it's like, when you are reacquainting yourself with things that you may not have known, or how deep and how rooted a lot of it is, it's like, oh, I don't even know how people actually, like, they must have not had, like, there had to be heartless humans. I don't even understand. Like, it is mind boggling to me.
Yeah.
And it's mind boggling to me that there are people still out there who are not willing to even just try.
Well, that's you have to take on.
Yes, no, I know. And that's why we're here.
We have to, as Black folk, have to live in it and navigate it to the best of our ability, and still like manage to create careers and lives and families, and we have done that, you know. So that's another place of like, that's another thing that I can own, that even in spite of all of that, here we are, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm not the angry Black woman. I can bring some anger to the table if you want, but I do what benefits me, you know, and it benefits me to live in peace and operate from love. But and yeah, like, I'm human. Like, do I have opinions about things that aren't just? Of course I do. But am I ruled by it? No, I'm not. And like, what, and I know that there's some people that get it, but people really need to understand that the grace and dignity it takes to operate in a society that doesn't even recognize your humanity is beyond words.
Yes.
So fellow people can do the work of reading a book and finding out what history has been created that has led us to this point, you know. And yes, there has been progress, right? In the midst of all that, there has been progress. I mean, there were only 7 people in a week that got lynched. And I'm not being an asshole when I say that.
I agree. Yes, because
lynching statistics. You talk to a lot of people, a lot of, you know, older Black people from the South, and even white people. I'm sure that they've been traumatized by seeing bodies hanging from trees.
Yeah.
But what doesn't really get discussed in the general conversation is how lynching Black people became a festival for white people.
Yes. Yes.
Okay? Yeah. It became something that you brought your family to, that you know, like the term picnic, you know, it's very controversial because, and I have to like grapple with it myself and my usage of it, but it was literally a moment in time where you packed a lunch, and they did it on Sunday too.
Shut up.
They put their Sunday.
I don't know that you're teaching. I don't know this.
Put their Sunday best on, and they not only participated in the lynching of a Black man usually, but sometimes it was women and children. But they took pictures. They crowded to take pictures around that corpse that had been hung, mutilated, burned. And you can see. I mean, listen. This is.
No, I know. Yeah.
This has been documented. They've interviewed. There's been stories where they've interviewed white people who have discovered the most horrific things you can imagine upon, like, you know, grieving.
Family journals and stuff. Yeah.
Yep. You know, poems, memories, tokens.
Yep. Yep.
You know, and was every single white family in America participating? No.
No.
Those who didn't participate knew about it. And what did you do? What could you do? So now this is great. This is so brilliant because I never actually thought of it like this before. But so now, if you're ever confronted with a white person that says, "Well, I didn't do any of that," you know, I was around then. But unfortunately, you now have the debt of dealing with.
Yes, what the ancestors did, of course.
You know, all the good white folks that did nothing about that, you have now been passed down the weight of that and the debt of that, and how you're going to deal with it. Because to pretend that there's nothing you can do about it is just nonsense. Like, it isn't that way.
I don't buy it either. Right.
It really doesn't. You know, the sins of the father, that's a real thing. And
it is.
it's, you know, getting back to the guilt, it's like on some level, right? It's like when you know that there was something that went down that was foul, you may not be able to put your finger on it, but you know it happened. You can sense it. You're inside of a system that like makes it true.
Yep.
And just don't know what to do about it. You're not willing to do anything about it. You're not willing to be in relationships so you can ask how these things can be reconciled at the most minimal level. And then you just feel guilty.
Yes. Yeah.
You know? And it's like people get, it's like they're getting high off of their guilt. Like what's the reward of guilt?
Nothing. Guilt is like, it's so heavy. It's terrible.
Especially when you know there's work to be done. What is the guilt going to provide for you, really?
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, listen, you're saying all the things that I believe. It's hard to, now we're going to have like, you know, like you say, form the relationships to have the conversations, right? And that's important.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there are people out there who will say, I don't even know where to start. What if I don't have any Black friends? Well, you have a white friend that has a Black friend.
Right.
You have, you know what I mean? Like, like, yes, like they're not so hard to find, everybody. I don't get it.
Right. We live in America. What if I don't have any Black friends?
No. I mean, what?
I mean, listen,
yeah.
You know, it's funny that it's such a, we can laugh about it, but like,
well, we can because, right.
But, and I get, like, that's a real question, right? A real
it is.
People. And it's just like,
yes, you don't even have words.
Work on what you have to, you know, work on what you have to work on to get beyond that even being something that will come out of your mouth.
Yes, word to that.
Yeah, start with like demanding that the companies you work for do better.
Yeah, right. Or be that person in your company who does better.
Yeah. Encourage that. Don't rely on the Black person that gets hired as the chief diversity officer to do all that labor.
Right.
When you can actually be putting in the work too.
Right.
You know, it's not, we're just not at a place where we can operate from like, that's their problem. I have nothing to do with that. You have everything to do with it. Because what do you do when your child gets married to a Black person and brings him home? Are you still not going to have anything to do with it?
Right.
Someone in your family's bound to do it.
Absolutely.
Grandchildren running around looking like me. You still not going to have anything to do with it? I have to say it.
I know.
To say it.
Listen, I know people that I know people that are in that exact situation. Right? They were completely, listen, they grew up racist. There's no other way to say it, right? And now they have a half black, half white granddaughter, and she is amazing and gorgeous. And all of a sudden, oh my God, what have we been doing?
Right. Now you care all of a sudden.
It's never too, right, yes. But it is also never too late to have an epiphany and create change.
100%.
Right? So
you have to say that again. Please say it again.
It is never too late to have an epiphany and create change. I'm serious, right? Like, so I don't know. Are you watching Emmanuel Acho do his uncomfortable conversations with the black man?
No, but
watch those.
Send me the link.
Follow him on Instagram. He is a former football player, Emmanuel Acho.
Okay.
I'll send you. And he 3 weeks ago, when this whole thing started, he put out a video, and it was, somebody shared it on Instagram, and I was like, I'm watching you because yes, but I'm going to watch you because I need to hear what you have to say too. Right. So there's that element. But he is very articulate in what he has to say, and he's very articulate in breaking it down. The systemic racism, the whatever. And so now he's having the first conversation was with himself to the world. Okay. This is why you shouldn't use the N-word. This is why you shouldn't like that stuff, right? And I think that's important because there are kids out there on the street and they're saying these words, and I'm like, you're not allowed to say that.
Mm-hmm.
You're just not. But he talked to Matthew McConaughey last week, and this week he's talking to Chip and Joanna Gaines.
Okay.
So he's picking people
yes.
that he wants to have conversations with that I'm sure have been around some kind of racism in their lives.
Right.
We all have. But I just find it interesting. Like his words and his conversations are enlightening and they're interesting and everybody should watch them. Mm-hmm. Because it's another form of, oh, I didn't know, but this is an easy way to get educated. Like, you don't have to pick up a 700 volume page book and dig into the hard stuff like, you can literally, like, keeping it simple, like we said before, watch this guy's video, watch Dave Chappelle's video. Like, it takes 20 minutes out of your day and you're like, oh my God, my mind has just been transformed, blown.
When you see blackface, don't assume that it doesn't concern you. If it doesn't involve basketball, football, or any type of sports, right? Because that's not an issue. Like, Black presence in those arenas is never an issue. People love that. But when it comes to, like, having conversations, like, make an inquiry.
Yep.
Get into it. See what's being discussed.
Yeah, ask.
Because that can actually represent relationship as well. Like, outside of, like, two people or, like, you and a group of people, it's like, be in relationship to what matters to people that you have no relationship to.
Yeah.
Get into the world of what they're discussing. Get into the world of what's important to them. Because you may find that some of the things that are important to them are actually important to you. Yeah. And that's where we can start to humanize people that we've, like, totally stripped of their humanity. And we do that. We do that when they're murdered and we talk about their criminal past. We do that when they're murdered and then we try to, like, say, well, if they only did this and if they only did that,
Right, like somehow they deserved it. Nobody deserves it.
It doesn't even matter if they're children. I mean, Tamir Rice was playing with a gun
I know.
in an open carry state. How does a child get killed for having a gun in an open
in a state where it's legal?
State? How does that happen? So the work.
Yes.
Let me tell you, there's enough work to go around for everyone individually to tackle and
yep.
Not only at the individual level, but to create, groups and
conversations.
Yeah, like and like just do the work. Stop being lazy. Laziness is getting people killed. Like, just stop it. Just stop it.
Yeah.
Lazy, comfort, like, stop. Because we don't have time for that, Like, I mean, it takes everything for me to manage myself in a way, and I pointed to this the last time we talked, but, like, manage myself so that I'm not being completely, like, overtaken and overrun by carnage, because that's really what it is. It's like, yo, we're literally at war, like, straight up. Americans.
Yes.
Where I'm at war, you're at war.
Yes.
Like,
I feel it.
Yeah. Do this anymore. Like, nah.
I feel it.
You're not being shot in your bed at night when you go to sleep, but it's like, you are impacted. You are, like, in this with us. There's no backing out of it. There's no separation. There's no, well, I don't want to talk about that, Right. So I'm glad that, I think I did see a clip of the one with Matthew McConaughey. And I remember wanting to get back to it. I think someone must have posted it. And yes, I'm glad that you mentioned it, because I will definitely.
I will send it to you. I mean, it's worthwhile. I think it's, it's not, I'm going to say surface level, because I'm trying to make it, like, palatable for people who want to delve into this without having to be like, oh, I gotta go. It's hard. Like, I'm trying to make it easy for you people. Like, I can't make it much easier than watching a 15-minute video with, people that you like on it. It's like, stop. I don't know. Right? Like, how much easier can we make this? I don't know. My head hurts. These people make my head hurt.
How have you been since the last time we spoke?
I'm great. I mean, now I'm reading. So I wish we could set up a network of women to connect and have these discussions. Micheline, be careful what you wish for. Be careful what you wish for. We're working on some stuff to set up a network of women to do this. So you're going to have to stay tuned for that. It's coming. We just started having these conversations. But I'm excited about it because now I have feedback that people want it.
And I love what you said. Don't know a Black person here. Let's
introduce you. Right. This is Okema. She's one of my favorite Black people I have ever met. I mean, that's ridiculous. How about she's one of my favorite people I've ever met, period. Like, why do we have to like inject an adjective into that?
I'm getting wrong, folks. I'm happy Black. Yes. Like, you don't have me like in the Black cage.
No, you're not. No, I don't know. We sit next to each other at the table. It's okay.
Exactly. You know, I'm glad that we can laugh.
Yes. I think listen, this shit is so heavy.
It is.
That you really have to be able, and it's not funny. So we're not demeaning it in any way, shape, or form. But you have to, for your mental health. In fact, I just taught this before I got on this call. We have been through the ringer the last 3 months, right? Between all the stuff that's going on out there in the world. And if you can't find a moment to just take a breath and find like something to laugh about or some joy in your life, then you're doing it wrong. Like, you got to be able to do it. You just have to. You have to.
It's true. It's true. And, you know, people are going to have different opinions on that, right? So some people are like, you know.
How dare you? How dare these two people be laughing right now? Right.
And I'm going to laugh because that's what I do.
I know.
That's how I keep my head on straight, you know. And sometimes, you know, the laughter is really like opening the relief valve. Right?
Yeah. It's medicinal.
You need to have that. You need to have that. And going back to Dave Chappelle, you know, I wasn't expecting it to be a comedy show because I knew better, right?
Right.
But somehow he managed, and he was heavy. I don't know how
he was heavy. And I was like, how are people gonna laugh? And then all of a sudden I was like, ooh, I'm actually giggling right now.
I know. So, and that's the beauty of humanity, like getting back to humanity, you know, and also, I know we probably have to wrap up soon, but I want to say that for those who are struggling with the concept of like Black people's humanity being stripped from them, it's like, not only is that a thing, but think about the next time you do not grant someone their humanity for whatever reason. Oh, because they did this, because they were a criminal, they smoked crack. Whatever judgment you put on them, you're actually removing yourself from your own humanity when you do that.
Yeah. So when you point a finger, one comes right back at you.
And it's really in your best interest to grant humanity everywhere you go with everyone that you can, because it deepens your own relationship to your humanity.
Of course.
You know, I got to throw that woo stuff in there. I do, because I truly believe in it. So I
believe it too.
But it's like, yeah, like for those who want to try to figure out like why this madness is happening and, you know, legitimize it the best way they can, it's like the last thing you want to do is separate yourself from your own humanity. And when you don't grant me mine, you're separating yourself from your own. And I don't think
we're stopping on that. We're going to stop on that point because that's an excellent point.
Yes.
I, as per usual, love you.
I love you too.
You stay right there. You know, all these comments are so heartwarming and so lovely, and I love every single human that is on here because I know all of you, but in real life, you're related to Okema or you're a friend of mine. So thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for participating. Stay tuned because we will have more. This will definitely happen again and again and again. We don't want these conversations to stop. They're really important, and we should keep them going. So you stay right where you are. Everybody else, mwah, thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. More to come on the listening tour next week. I've got just a regular Why Am I Yelling Live tomorrow with another friend of mine, but we're not doing Black Lives Matter because those shows have been booked for months. So we'll be back here next week with some more listening stuff, but I'll be back here tomorrow with another Why Am I Yelling Live. So we'll see you guys tomorrow. You stay right there. Thanks for watching. I love you.